So I'm going to review a game that was linked to on Reddit. The player asked a little bit about how to handle thinness in the opening. I'm going to provide a few of my own comments, but I'm also later on going to use CrazyStone to analyze this game and see if more comments can come out as a consequence of that, and maybe learn something myself. So let's take a look at the game. I've anonymized the users. I always do this, by the way. Um, so uh, white plays in the center, and black plays a um, reasonable move. It's kind of a symmetrical move. Everybody's playing symmetrical. Is black going to play mirror go? I don't know. Okay. So black's not going to play that kind of mirror go, but black is sort of doing that kind of mirroring of white's moves. Okay, this move, normally it's a very good shape to extend like this. 2-point extension combined with this enclosure. However, because black has these two stones here, I think there's a question about how white's going to handle this move. So that's something to think about. And I'm curious to see whether or not CrazyStone will actually try to play that or do something else. In the game, black plays here. Okay, just trying to make territory. And white ignores that and plays another attachment. I think that's actually nice fighting spirit for white. I would answer, but I can't say that this is bad. And this is definitely a good attitude to have. Let's try to, whether or not the moves are good. It's good for players to try to ignore their opponent's moves and see what they can get away with. So black Hanes, that's normal, and white plays an inside Hane here. Okay, so just trying to cut black off, I guess. So black plays a clamp. I would cut as black. I mean, seems to be the only move. It's this clamp. The idea behind a clamp is usually to make miai of moves on the other side. So, for example, if white plays here, well, maybe black can play, but black would play here. That's still not that great for black. And if white plays here, then black plays here. That would be the idea. But if you compare this to just cutting, I think that black's result will be better with just simply cutting. All right, so let's go back and see what happened. Okay, a couple of Ataris, and black's has Sente. So black uses Sente to try to reduce white. This is very big over here, making some continuation over here is very large. White invades. Again, white is really not trying to follow black around. Good spirit, but I think black's really strong here. I don't think white can live in this area unless black makes a mistake. Yeah, so as long as this is Sente, and it is, yeah, black can play that and surround, and now white definitely does not have enough room to live. So white answers black's earlier move. Okay. Usually, playing an Atari where white's going to fix the shape like this is not the best direction because white has a lot of liberties here. When it's tempted to see, and it's a matter of reading whether or not you can get away with playing an Atari on this side. Minimally, black could connect and end in Sente like this. But in the game, black plays the Atari, and then there's this knight's move here. And this is also, so black ends in gote, number one, blocking here. And then white later has this move at d2. It may even play it immediately. Let's see what white does. Okay, threatening to cut. Yeah, have to come back and answer. Connect, cut. Not sure I understand what happens if black just connects here. What is white going to do? Maybe just testing black. So, okay, so this is fairly normal. Okay. And it's not that black doesn't have to answer right here. Black could play something else. There's some other moves that might be pretty damaging in the corner, but white is now safe, and that's the end of the game. And so, is it correct that black wins by 4.5 points? All right. So I'm going to cut over to the review with CrazyStone. Okay. Now I'm going to review this game using CrazyStone. I'm going to use an interactive review, which means I'm going to use Analyze Current Game directly. And one of the things that you can do this way is you can see the playouts as they occur. You can see what kind of how much work CrazyStone is spending on different types of moves. Let's make that even smaller so that it fits in the screen. And what I'll be looking at is really, for example, the CS best move. So right now, if I go up to move 4, you'll start to see the playouts. So it's played out over 50,000 variations here. It thinks that G4, which is the game move, is the best move. So let's continue and see what it thinks. So it does think G7 is the best move right now after about over 100,000 playouts. However, one of the things I've noticed with CrazyStone is that it doesn't necessarily update the CS best in this display as it goes along. So one thing that you can do is you can back up one move, which is what I did, and you can go analyze move list. And here you can see the playouts. So let's get this out of the way so I can see some of the moves. So this is another thing I think is a bug. It should be sorted by this last column, player black wins. And since I'm looking for suggestions for white's next move at this point, so G7 is the move that was played in the game, but you want to find a move where the probability that black wins is the lowest, not some other value. And so right now, actually the value that's the lowest is D4. The lowest value is not F6, and it's starting to resort. And I think if you wait long enough, it eventually will resort. I'm not sure what algorithm it uses to resort, to decide when to resort. Maybe it doesn't want to bounce these values around a lot, because that would be hard on the eye. But if you're using this, you have to be careful to look at the move that is actually the strongest looking move. So right now it is thinking the best move is actually D4, which is to play here, and it is not in fact G7. But the difference isn't really that great. We're talking about a couple % difference in the probability of winning. These aren't huge differences. But one of the things that that's interesting. So d4, f6, g6, f7. This is just a little bit worse. Now, if I close this and I go back and I say okay, it changes to d4. So this display does not refresh as the CS best move changes. And so that's a bug. Now it goes back to g7. It replaces it with the game move, which is certainly not the move it decided was the best move. So there's some bugs. In any case, it makes it kind of difficult to use in this mode, which is why I don't always use interactive mode. What I usually do is go and say analyze game record, and then give it a certain amount of time to analyze it, and then I just look at what it finds, and I look at the top move it finds, and I don't do this kind of stuff. You can do it if you let it think for a little bit before you proceed, however. So Tanuki here is not something that I would recommend. I mean, this is a big thing to leave unsettled. So there's a Hane here. The player who gets to play here first has a big advantage. So white to play here first, or black to play, somewhere around d3 is pretty big. CrazyStone also doesn't like the clamp much and believes that black should cut. So if you Atari here, that's an okay move, but is it truly Sente? That's kind of the question. So CrazyStone would have played c2, which is defending this area rather than capturing this stone. Because white, even if black captures the f8 stone, white can still connect here. So white's not going to die. And so there's a kind of a measurable value of capturing that stone. And if one looks at it that way, if you look at it as an endgame problem, it would certainly be bigger to defend around here, which is what CrazyStone suggests doing. In fact, it thinks it's probably about a 5-point mistake. If you look at the previous move, the situation was negative 0.5, which means that white was ahead by half a point. And if you look a little bit further down, it's okay. It's changing now. It's a little bit worse. So, but this isn't game losing. This is still a close game at this point. However, both players seem to be ignoring the lower left corner, which is the biggest area of the game. Here I said this is difficult invasion. Probably is not going to succeed. And this is where it starts to say, okay, that's a huge delta. I mean, it's a 24% difference. The probability of black winning at this move was somewhere around 43%, whereas now the probability of black winning is 64%. So that's a huge difference. So this invasion was really the biggest mistake. White should definitely continue here, and white can play that in Sente because black will have to back off. So that's a big thing. Let's continue quickly and look for some other things of interest. So one of the things I mentioned is whether or not this is the appropriate Atari. In fact, CrazyStone would have played the other Atari, and we can check to see what would happen by continuing the game and branching. And it's still analyzing here, right? It's still analyzing, and it thinks. So now I can hint and say, well, what would white play in this case? Okay, white would extend. Makes sense. Now, will black play the connection, the simple connection at d4, which I recommended as being at least Sente? Or will black try something more aggressive, like playing at d2? Let's see. I think both moves are playable for black. Yeah, okay. So CrazyStone would have played this move. It turns out that there's not that much white can do at this point. Because if white plays here, black can just connect, and then when white cuts, you can see that that stone will be laddered, right? So, yeah, in fact, white can save these stones through a strange method, and we can. I think we can see that if we hint some more. So where would white play at this point? Yeah, okay. So white can cut here, but black will say, okay, well, I'll cut that. I cut you, you cut me. Now white has this Tsuji here, and will connect underneath if black captures. And black will capture, and then white can connect underneath, but white is actually still behind, so white might decide to play a different move. Okay. So that's a possible variation. In any case, something to explore. So let's continue. White answered there. Black played this move, and there's some rather large mistakes according to CrazyStone. For example, this one is not the move it would play. But remember, it's assigning probability of winning. Once black is as much as 4 to 7 points ahead this late in the game, there aren't really that many opportunities for white to turn it around. If white wants to turn around this game, it's not going to be by playing normal endgame moves. So trying something like this is probably a reasonable thing to do for white, because unless white tries something, black's going to win easily. Now, I don't know if players can count that accurately, the players in this game, but this is probably a reasonable thing to try, considering that that white is already losing. However, black did play the move that CrazyStone would have played, and it's also the move I thought black should play in this situation. So white plays here, and a lot of interesting things can occur, but one of the things that one might think is where should white play at this point? So white would have played b5 if white were CrazyStone. Now b5 doesn't work, but again, CrazyStone, even though is like only 2.5 points behind, is going to say, well, if I play normal moves, I can't win, so I better overplay and try to see if black can will make a mistake. So CrazyStone would have played b5. And this is why if you actually play against CrazyStone, you'll find that it really tests you. It will probe your weaknesses. It will make overplays when it's behind, and if you can't answer those overplays correctly, you're going to be in trouble. So I think playing against CrazyStone is a good way of training yourself to deal with the kind of player who simply refuses to resign and just keeps going and going. If you're playing against CrazyStone, you can configure it to resign. There's this option calm resign, which I have toggled on, but I find that it doesn't resign until it's extremely far behind, maybe 60 points behind. So, in any case, I'm not going to continue with the rest of this game. The key things to think about here are initially a safer move for white would have been to simply extend to g6 instead, or you can attach here directly. This is a little bit thin, and there's a potential punishment for black. Black could play a move like this and Hane through and be ahead. Okay, so that's something to worry about. So this is right here is a safer move. So that's one thing to think about for white. And continuing on, This clamp is not good. Black should cut directly at f7. This Atari is not actually Sente. So white could have continued. Instead of capturing this stone up here, white can continue at d5, probably in Sente. Excuse me, at d4, probably in Sente. So those are the key things. And both players ignore the lower left area, which is the biggest area to continue. And when black gets to play here first, black is already slightly ahead, and it's difficult for white to win unless black makes some kind of mistake. And at this point, white tries something, but since black refutes it properly, there's no more no more chance for white to win the game. All right, so I think I'll end the review at this point. Thank you.